You know, the White House is under increasing pressure to change course in Iraq and come up with a strategy to destroy ISIS. The radical Islamic terrorists who beheaded James Foley, threatened to kill more hostages, and now control such a huge swath of Iraq and Syria and are spreading terror and Islamic militancy with no signs of surrender. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham says President Obama needs to acknowledge the current policy is not working, and he points to the surge under President George W. Bush as a good example of changing policy when needed.
My concern is that the president's strategy of leading from behind and light footprint has failed. He has to realize, as President Bush did, that his strategy is not working. President Bush adjusted his strategy when it was failing, and he brought about a surge that worked. President Obama has to admit to himself, if no one else, that what he's doing is not working. We've talked about Iraq, but there's no way you can solve the problem in Iraq without hitting them in Syria.
Will the new strategy work? Pete Hegseth is the CEO of Concerned Veterans for America and a Fox News contributor. You know, Pete, do you think it is possible for this president to change course?
I think it is possible. The question is, would he be willing to do so? It is a very difficult thing for a leader to basically disregard the worldview they've had and change course in a highly complex situation. If you remember 2007 and the Iraq surge, everyone thought the president was going to basically start to draw down. Things are going difficult. It was a very courageous and difficult decision to instead double down and say, no, we're going to win this. We're going to change the dynamic through the Iraq surge. For the president right now to say in 2014, I'm going to change course in Iraq, reinsert U.S. troops, and defeat ISIS would be a total turning of a total different direction from where he's been. That would take a level of leadership and courage we have not seen from this president on this issue. So it's unlikely, but Senator Graham is right. It needs to happen, and it would have to happen very soon.
Well, you know, Pete, supporters say that the president has kept us out of another war. Critics say he's dithered. I mean, and by dithering and not taking the most aggressive action, he has potentially created the conditions that have caused ISIS to flourish.
He these conditions. The problem is the president doesn't understand that 2014 in Iraq is not 2003 in Iraq, and we cannot afford to not crush ISIS. We have to defeat this enemy. Thousands, tens of thousands of radical Islamists, thousands of which have American or European passports. They're seeking to strike the American homeland and Western Europe. So this is not just a contained problem in an interconnected world. It goes elsewhere. So he has to step up, look at the facts as they are on the ground right now, not preconceived notions about America's gone, America's out. No one wants to be in Iraq. The problem is the conditions there today are so bad in Iraq and through to Syria that we need a change of course, a recognition that our strategy has failed, and that takes a leader with the confidence to stand in front of the American people and say, you know what, I believe we should get out. I thought it was the right thing to do, but conditions have changed, and in America's best interests, we're gonna do what we need to do to defeat and crush ISIS for the sake of that area, our allies, and American interests.
You know, there's a pretty blunt criticism of Professor Joseph LeConte in the current New York Observer. Let me read it to you. He's at King's College. He calls it fatal weakness. What Mr. Obama fails to grasp is that any achievement toward peace and democracy, any diplomatic triumph depends on the projection of American military power, the defeat of Nazism, the transformation of Japan and Germany into liberal democracies, the rescue of South Korea from communist tyranny, the liberation of Eastern Europe, and the disintegration of the Soviet Union. Mr. Obama, haunted by the demons of Vietnam and Iraq, cannot seem to decide what to do. Do you think that is fair criticism, off base, and what should he do?
It's a great point, and it applies directly to Iraq today. In his world, political diplomacy is how you change the dynamic. But that's fundamentally wrong. You create political opportunity by changing the power dynamic, the military dynamic, by shifting who's winning on the battlefield. That's what happened through the Iraq surge. In 2007, when the tide started to turn on the battlefield and we were defeating al-Qaeda in Iraq and the insurgency there, then the politicians started to stand up and have the courage to build a cohesive Iraq. Maliki started taking the fight to Shia militias, something he would never have been willing to do before. So military progress is the necessary precursor to political and diplomatic progress.
Right,
that's what he's saying, and American power is the key ingredient there.
Well, we're out of time right now. Pete Hegseth, thanks so much.